I thought we would lower the temperature from me beating up on billionaires and political leaders that are evil and full of crap, and show you what I actually do: build watches. I don't know, a few months back, after doing the Tucker Carlson show with the Omega car, I did a video to let everybody know that the Omega car startup company is star-crossed at best, because basically anything in the world doesn't want that to exist. That's not what this video is about. This video is about watches and kind of actually being a human being. Yes, we forget about that. But that was the case. I wanted to let everybody know, because suddenly after doing the Tucker Carlson show, and I said that the Omega car, mass-produced, would cost in the area of $20,000, I had a whole lot of people that didn't think real hard to realize that I said mass-produced. And mass-produced requires tremendous many millions of dollars of startup capital and factories and hundreds or thousands of people, and not just one guy in Ohio. So no, I can't and won't and have no interest to build you a car for $20,000, because at that point it would be insane charity. And I may as well take a long walk off a short pier. So what do I actually do being a real human being? And by real human being, I mean somebody who isn't part of the upper crust socioeconomic class, where money no longer matters and you can just manipulate the world through the big, evil, sick, twisted theater that is life, for the betterment of no one, like basically all of our politicians and billionaires are right now. They need to create nothing. Well, I want to build a watch company. Why? Because real human beings, or at least men, we like cool mechanical things. We like cars, motorcycles, airplanes, bicycles, sailboats, powerboats, racing, watches, firearms, etc. So I wanted to build a company with my last name, Putsch, which originates, of course, from the Bavaria and Swiss region of the world, which is also where the finest watches in the world are produced. So I, over the last year, have been getting the highest quality Swiss parts I can, and I genuinely mean that. I don't mean like, oh, somebody in Switzerland put it on a computer and then ordered them from China, because Chinese garbage sucks. I have some Chinese stuff to test, and it's shit. It's total garbage. I hate it. Doesn't mean that China can't produce something well. It just means that they generally don't. And even if they do produce something well, it doesn't have any soul. That's my opinion. So, Swiss only. Which brings me to another point. It annoys me that in the United States, Germany, and elsewhere, and even Switzerland nowadays for that matter, you can say made in, i.e. the country you're in. So like, for instance, I could say made in USA, even if all the components aren't actually made in the USA. And I don't like that. That is untruthful at best. And while somebody might profit off that in a PR way, I want to get these stupid Chinese things out of my way. I don't even like looking at them. Crap. Look at this. This one stupid Chinese watch that I was testing, because I wanted to see, this is like a year ago, I wanted to see what it is. All I did is just drop this thing, and the bezel just blew right off. And that's not even that hard of a floor. God, that's trash. This particular watch I acquired, there was a guy, I'm not going to say who, in the United States, trying to sell in high-end luxury watches to set himself up to take over a brand of something else, and that's all I'm going to say. Garbage. Actually, I'm throwing this away. I don't even want to look at it anymore. Take your Chinese garbage and go screw yourself. I'm like, I don't even want this. I can't even look at it. So it annoyed me, because I was having a conversation with someone in Europe, and that's all I'll say, and they said, well, even if you get the parts from Switzerland, if you put it together in the United States and you have some other parts from it, you can say made in the USA. Why would I do that? It's not. This is assembled in the USA. And I make a small amount of the parts myself. And by make, I mean out of raw material by hand with tooling and such. But by and large, basically, all of the important mechanical parts come from Switzerland. And they're the best ones I can possibly get, because that's the place in the world the best parts come from, period. But there's another part that actually matters. That's where the soul of watchmaking comes from. That's where the most creative and intelligent people in the world live. Fight me, it's true. So Why would I not be proud of that when my lineage as an American comes from that same place too? I am proud of it. And I want the best in the world, Swiss quality parts. And I want to get it from there, which also is more difficult now thanks to old orange orangutan in the White House. So anyway, so Swiss parts, right? But in the United States, I get bands sourced here, all the ones that can. And I get the nicest ones possible, which frankly cost more. But I think are worth it because I want to make the best watch possible, especially if it's going to carry my name. Because I am a tremendous snob. And for me, I only want the best thing that can possibly exist. So that's the way I feel about it. Today's video is not scripted. I'm just going to speak from the heart about what's going on. And I hope you enjoy it to some extent. I'm not going for the views. I just want to be a human being. And frankly, it'll be a little bit of a mental relief from the ridiculously dark videos I've been doing of recent. Why are they dark? Because our world and government and people are dark. Let's just leave it at that and not have more of a conversation relating to. So today I have some parts in from Switzerland that will be the first of my low production run watches. So you can probably see a few here. I've prototyped initially a dozen of my own watches and designs to test everything from the fitment of various parts to how well it works, different companies of movements, different sources, different styles. And they came out beautifully. They all work fantastically. They're all incredibly durable. And a number of the watches I absolutely adore, to the point where I adore them over my legacy brand watches, from everything from Tag Heuer to Rolex to Ulysse Nardin and everything in between. So I still wear some of my old watches that are collected, but mostly I wear watches that I created because they're better and cooler. Got that one dirty. Anyway, so that was over last year, right? And then I sold 10 Founders watches, all of which, actually except for 2, are going to their owners. The one guy just moved, and he's giving me whatever address he wants me to send it to. And then the other gentleman, I'm finishing his up. I got to text him today because there was a slight delay. I changed the way that I do something with regard to the dial because his ended up being misaligned by like half a degree, and that bugged me. So there's a little delay, and I need to let him know why. I think he'll be understanding. He's a cool guy. Anyway, so that's what I was doing, right? And why is a watch company important? Well, let's go at face value. In 2025, everything is fake and gay and retarded. I know that sounds crass, but I hang out with a lot of military guys and that's what they say. So let's just say it's all fake. Well, people just want to get a bunch of cheap garbage, usually from China, take pretty pictures of it, and sell it cheaper than the next guy to try to make some money. Well, that's a stupid game and a stupid race. I won't do that. I'm going to sell a tremendously small amount of things. They're not going to be cheap. In fact, they're going to be expensive, but they're going to be less costly than a comparative watch in a legacy brand, which means they're a better value and inherently are less costly. The other great thing about doing it the way I'm doing, since I get the parts from Switzerland and I'm building everything here, even though the Orange Man's idiotic tariffs that are supposed to help the United States, but as near as I can tell, only help our corrupt United States government and not the people, I still have to pay tariffs, which I hate and are stupid. But they end up being less than the legacy brands, so I guess it helps me in some capacity by comparison, even though we're all getting beat up. So make the best watches at a lower cost than the legacy brands are with a company that means something. And what do I mean it means something? Each watch that I have will be named for a person, either living or dead. Not by their actual name, but who they were, what did they embody through their stories. And each watch will tell a story because it will be built for a person's life and stories of a certain time. For instance, this one I'm calling the Phantom. And it's a titanium case, very visible in terms of all of the numbers. It's a chronograph, i.e. stopwatch. But I did it in such a way that would be classic, i.e. this would be like the ultimate military issue aviator watch of, shall we say, the late 1960s or into the Cold War. And I called it the Phantom because a relative of mine flew F-4 Phantoms over Vietnam and nuclear B-52s before that. And he loved watches, but he was a young pilot and couldn't afford certain ones. And they had their military issue ones. But I made this watch to be the ideal watch to embody his stories at the time. Of course, high-end Swiss movement, beautifully decorated. I hand paint a lot of things on this and make it. And this is the only watch that has a component from somewhere else. And since he was flying in Vietnam, this is actually a Stingray band that was made in Vietnam. That's the only watch I have of anything that isn't from Switzerland or the United States is that band, but it relates to the story where he flew because when I showed it to him, this was the ideal watch for him. And this is the prototype right here. So that's an example of a story, but I wanted it to, each watch to embody somebody that had tremendous stories that grew as a person through history and how it goes. You know, so there obviously is going to be a racing inspired chronograph or driving car one. There's going to be one probably called like the Captain for sailboat racing and adventuring in that regard. There's one that I may call I think the Operator is going to actually be a watch where you can't buy them. I will gift one watch to a current serviceman or woman who otherwise couldn't afford them. And that's something I want to do as a company because I realize that the watches I have embody stories of a person from a time that ironically the persons at that time in their life that the stories are embodied of for the watch wouldn't be able to afford my watch. It's just, I don't like that inconsistency, but it's part of the nature because all this is going to be handmade and super high end. So that's good. But to beat that of my own, so for probably every 10 watches I sell, I'm going to gift a watch. I don't have the example here. I have a case over there. Very simple, very strong. I haven't decided if it's going to have a GMT function in it or not, but to a current serviceman or woman. I already have somebody in mind to give the first watch to. And then there's likely to be a GMT. There'll be military inspired there. There will be a ladies' watch. The prototype is here. I'm going to call that one the Confidant, which is not a word Americans use a whole lot nowadays, probably because we're not as loyal or smart as we should be. But women are both underrated in society and overrated in society. Where are they overrated? For the wrong reasons. Where are they underrated? For the wrong reasons. So if anybody gets mad at the statement I just made, you need to stop talking and being triggered and just think about what I said. In any case, this is the prototype here. I may change, it's simple. It's hours, minutes, seconds, and date. But when you turn it over to the skeleton back, it is the most beautiful watch that I make. The perlage, the machine-turned decoration of the entirety of the movement is exquisite on this one. And the woman's watch, by virtue of being a little smaller in stature, the window, the exhibition back of a sapphire crystal for the rear case shows you more of its heart. But you only get to see it, only the wearer gets to see that if you turn it over, is how you look at a great relationship for someone who may be a great friend and confidant. And there's somebody I have in mind for that. I'm not going to tell the story right now because I would rather announce all this in the next few months when the website comes out and do some events and such. Because it really means something. So forgive me for not sharing that right now, but I'm excited about the watch company because it means something. And there's so few things, if not nothing, nowadays that means anything. And we're all staring down the barrel of AI and a ridiculous amount of data centers being shoved right up our rectums in so many states, destroying our waterways and most likely our underground water and aquifers, which I would get livid about, but I'm trying to emotionally block right now for the sake of this video. But watches are something that's close to you that means something. So for the men or women that wear my watches, I want them to embody something. Not only an incredible piece, timepiece that will literally last them a lifetime and be serviceable by any watchmaker worth their salt. I want it to be a milestone for people, something that reminds them of ideals and values that are bigger and longer lasting and things that matter. So here's the deal. This is what I'm going to do the first year. I think the number is going to be 10. I'm only going to make 10 of each model, period. So there's 5 models, which means 50 watches over the next year. That's it. That's all I'm going to make for the first year. I may do 1, maybe 2 custom watches a month, the bespoke ones, which will happen on the website like I did with the Founders watches. Maybe. At max 1, maybe 2. So that's going to be it. And then today, what I wanted to do is open some of these packages from Switzerland, because I'm a little overdue, and just account for what I have for the first model. But the first of each one I'm making, I will engrave with being the first of the model. So if anybody wants to pre-purchase the number 1 watch of each of the models, you're welcome to do so. I'm not actually jacking up the price on them, but it requires, oh, these are not all in the same box. Okay, great. This will take me a minute. So each watch, your watch, will be the one that's in all of the photography. And that's pretty cool to have the first one. So my early adopters. So the price points is that $4,000 to $8,000 range, depending on the watch. Obviously, as you go up, the more complex it gets, the more expensive it gets. These first watches, I love you, but don't ask me to customize them. That's when we get into custom watches. They have to represent the model line that's coming. But that doesn't mean that you can't purchase other bands that will complement it nicely, that you can change with your outfits or what you're doing. So for instance, like this one, the Phantom, which will actually be the most expensive one, that one's pushing $8,000. That's a titanium case chronograph and such, which I'll do with the Stingray band for the story. You can do that with other bands. So for instance, the Stingray is very, very, very well lasting and nice, but maybe you don't want one that's like just a little sparkly and funky. You know, maybe you want something that's just a tan or cognac ostrich that has more of a standard military issue look. Or maybe even a NATO strap, you know, maybe you want to do something like that because you're working on cars or riding motorcycles or flying planes or helicopters. Here's the movements. Oh, that's pretty. Give me a second. The pretty one must be for the woman's watch. The GMT is a little less decorated than that one. Oh, that's pretty. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's really pretty. Yes. Also, it's getting the winter seasons upon us, which means for me as an individual, I start shifting gears and thinking more cozy in a nook, and I don't mind coming to my basement, which is funny. This is not my mom's basement, and I don't actually do my trolling here. I am an equal opportunity troller. I troll everywhere, especially from my garage. So that's what's going on, guys. If you're interested in buying one of these or getting in line for the early production ones and such, it is possible for me to make you a watch before Christmas, but that's got to happen really quick. How am I going to do this? Okay, so the first one, since the... Nope, don't like that band. That's the band that came with something that's not high enough for me because I'm a snob. Very nice. Okay, so anyway, if you want one of these first watches, of the production ones, for the launch of the company, you're going to have to email me. You can do it through putschracing.com. And what we're going to do is this. There's 2 chronographs. There's the aviator-like one. There's the racing type one. What did I decide on? Oh, it looks like I decided on the GMT. There's going to be a GMT. There is, and the ladies' watch, and I think I have one other one. So if you want to buy a watch, the price ranges is $4,000 to $8,000, the first one. So you can play it slow, but I get barraged by things. So with the Founders watches, what I did is you do a $500 deposit via PayPal. So just, write me an email and I'll show you how to do that. And then once you do that, we'll do a video call and I'll show you the models and I'll show you what we got. And then we can decide which one you want. And then we'll do that. And then what I'll ask for is, you can do it one of 2 ways, depending on how much of a bother. You can just pay for the whole thing then. And then I'll apprise you as it's being finished and I'll send it to you. Or you can pay, half now to obviously reserve it and say, this is mine. And that's a done deal. And then the other half when it's finished. I'll be working to finish these quickly because I've got to get things ready to launch. And I want everybody to be happy before our Christmas season and the next new year to come. And then also for everybody, doggone it, that is pretty. Oh, yes. The ladies' watch. So this band's not bad. This is kind of like the ladies' beater band. It's nice, but it's not as high-end as that one. Not bad, not bad. I'm going to put that here for now. Let's see. I'll put it down here. Okay. So yeah, that's how we're going to do it. The ladies' watch. I'm excited about the ladies' watch. Yeah. Oh, and then also, what I'm doing is, I do have a background in fine art, and my background academically was me getting stuck at Ohio State University, which their entire art school was basically the product of the CIA destroying all of fine art by indirectly funding in the 1940s and 50s all these abstract impressionist garbage painters that weren't real for the sake of beating up on the Soviets, and now we have trash art in America. So I didn't like that. So I like classic beauty, objective beauty in art, and things that actually matter. So the other thing I'm going to do, for some of you more high rollers, more generational thinking people, this winter I will be making 3. And I'm only going to do it in the winter. Don't ask me to do it in the summer. My brain only works a certain way in certain seasons. They will be solid gold cases. Obviously super high-end Swiss mechanical movement. The most decorated, most beautiful ones possible. But I think I'm going to be making 3 different ones. One, the dial will be simpler to Champlevé, which will be where you cut and etch away the metal dial, and then you fire it with enamel and glass, which is similar to cloisonné. It's slightly a different style. So it'll be a beautiful art dial in that regard, enameled. The other one will be similar to what you see from Patek Philippe, high-end Ulysses Nardins, etc., where under a microscope with a teeny tiny brush, it's hand-painted beautiful scene. And then the last one, and that one will probably be very Art Nouveau, very La Belle Epoque nature. And then the last one, I'm going to use an Adventure Time dial, which is basically like glass with teeny tiny metal flakes in it. It looks like the night sky. It's on numerous watches, including the Van Cleef and Arpels Planetarium movement, which is my ultimate watch that I would love to have someday, which had the movement done by Christian Vanderklaw, which is the best planetarium movements in the world, although they're not Swiss, they're Dutch, which is okay unless you're driving. By the way, everybody in the Netherlands, why do you suck so much at driving? Is it because you're better at bicycles? You need to do better when you go to Germany on the Autobahn, I'm just saying. So, Christian Vanderklaw, the Adventure Time dials are beautiful. But what I wanted to do for that, the first one is solid gold case, exquisite movement. exquisite band, but the Adventure Time dial, which looks like the infinite vastness of space. And what I thought I would do with that is probably hand paint. I don't know if I'll do the Milky Way as you'd see it, and perhaps nebulas relating to a constellation. And then I may go so far as to inset tiny jewels, likely diamonds, sapphires, rubies, in it to create a constellation and such. So there will be 3 super high-end ones, and I'm gonna be straight with you guys, they're not cheap. They start at 20 grand. But in a sense that is cheap, because if you want something like that from one of the legacy companies, you're sending 6 figures. So, and I guess one of those watches will be for me. So I guess that means I'm only gonna make 2 that I would consider selling right now. Yeah. I guess I could make more, but that's it, 2. So you're gonna have to hit me up there, and then I'll give you an estimate and we'll go from there, because that will be super duper one-off, high-end. I don't know anybody else that can do this kind of work. And that'll be fun. Blending the engineering of time and teeny tiny mechanics that are, the power is stored in a spring, steel of the spring, to regulate that power to accurately tell you time, embodied in absolute fine art of objective beauty, built by an engineer and artist that's crashing out from Western society that's been completely manipulated by nothing but psyops for over a century and destroyed, who doesn't care anymore. Yeah, let's do it together. This will be fun. Okay. What the heck is this for? I think I might have gotten an extra one. Oh, wait a minute. No, I know what that's for. Okay, I need to... Okay, yeah, that's sweet. So, my GMT, actually, this is going to be an example of it. So I don't know if you guys can see this. GMT. Beautiful dark green. I would say an emerald green. A little bit of warmth to it with black. Very classic GMT look, of the diver look that you'd see with Tag Heuer in the past. Obviously Rolex, that's kind of their standard. Very rugged watch. This particular one belongs to a military buddy of mine that was ex-Force Recon. So I got to get that back to him. He's got to see it. I was changing something on it for him. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to point out is, not only am I a snob when it comes to art and quality, I'm a snob when it comes to engineering and mechanical things, because I'm into car racing and I hate when crap breaks and I want it to work well. But because I have unreal expectations with life, I have standards that are high, which means I also want to listen to a V12 engine sing its song while it goes 10 tenths around a racetrack for 24 hours. And I kind of want the same thing with watches. So where I'm going with this is, there's lots of bands and there's lots of watches that exist that look something like mine. But the difference is, mine aren't a piece of shit. And I know that's kind of a vulgar way to put it, but I mean that. Like that Chinese garbage, it doesn't. I don't care. Like, I'm not doing anything anymore in life that won't last generations. There won't be something, whether it's a company, you know, a philanthropic organization that lasts, or building a product that won't last literally generations and be able to be repaired, so long as people are still people. Okay, I'm not going to go down any of those dark rabbit holes about life in the world in this video. Okay. So I guess that's it, guys. This is pretty fun. I also realized, for all the watchmaking friend snobs out there, this is not technically a proper watchmaking desk. This is a roll top desk from the 1800s that I literally pulled out of a barn, cleaned, and used as my prototyping desk because I like it. And that's that. As things progress over the next year, like I said, I'm only going to make 10 of each model of watch, and I'm only going to do those few art watches. This is where it's going to be kind of the corner of my garage and me building things over the next year, and then I will be seeing how things go, and then gearing up to do more. But what I would like to do, shall we say, as a normal human being in America in 2025, is build a watch company that matters, and sourcing the finest parts from the world. And by world, I mean Switzerland, the United States. And that's it. And if anything, such as this band, comes from anywhere else in the world, it's only because that's the only place in the world that makes the best or only thing like it that specifically relates to a story. Otherwise, I'm going to be a snob and stick with my Bavarian and Swiss heritage because, my DNA and everybody there is the best at that. And that's matters. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this a little bit. We got away from the big, horrible political stuff because it is dark, very bad out there. But we have to remain sane and keep going, because if we don't, that means it's time for war. Now, it may very well be time for war. And keep in mind, we're currently in a 5th generational information world war right now, whether you all realize that or not. There's literally a world war going on right now. And yeah, there are people dying out there, and I don't like that. And I don't mind calling out anybody from a prime minister to the president of the United States if I think they're full of shit and attributing to the worst parts of humanity. I'm starting to get political. So why don't we together inject some beauty into our lives that can actually be passed down to future generations? Something that means something from even before it was built and created, that passes down ideals and wisdoms to others, that they can embody a beautiful timepiece that matters as a companion for their life and their family, and embodies something that matters to all of us. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. What else? It is fun. This is fun. That is so pretty. I'm so happy about the ladies' watch. I got to tell you guys, I was really worried about that for a long time because, let's be honest, women are not the same as men. Have you all noticed that yet? Yes, it's true. Women are different from men. Now, if anybody even remotely gets triggered by that statement, you have been conditioned by the media and government and psyops for I don't know how many decades. And it's time we all got over that. Yes, women are different than men, but you know what's cool about the difference? We're both awesome in our own ways. It's that easy. And because of that, the ladies' watch is different from the men's. And it's exquisite in its own way, in a way that the men's cannot be. And I'm excited about that. But the other thing that made that challenging to do, and why there's only one, is, did you all know that chicks are not into mechanical things as much as dudes? And did you know that dudes are not into touchy-feely feelings and cuddly moments as much as chicks? Yeah, no, it's true. That's why most of the people, if you go to a college for nursing or veterinarian, are women. And if you go to a college or university and see everybody in engineering, they're dudes. Because we're different. So that made it challenging for me because there's not as many high-end ladies parts and watch type things as much as guys who are far more obsessed with watches than women. Oh, that's going to be pretty. I know what that's for. And that's the racing related one. Ta-da. Oh yes, okay. That's gonna be for the Phantom. For this one. Oh, I forgot, I completely forgot. One of my models, that's right, I'm stupid. I'm not actually stupid, I shouldn't say that. So there's the high-end aviator chronograph. There's the really awesome, high-end, tough racing chronograph. There's the GMT, that's kind of my works for a businessman, but also badass, intelligent military dude. There's the ladies' watch, the Confidant, and then of course there's the manual wine dress watch, which, while it is a wristwatch, its style and soul goes back to the days of pocket watches in a way that is beautiful. It's not overtly formal, but that's something you can wear out on a date or to the symphony, or if you just got jeans on, you're chilling out and you just want to drink a cappuccino and you don't give a crap what anybody thinks about you. It's a perfect watch for you. And it's manual wind, which means it doesn't just wind from you running around all day. You have to wind it, which means you have to be conscientious of your machine that you are wearing as a companion, and then you get to get the satisfaction of winding it. And no, that's not a BS platitude. I actually mean that. It's a special experience. So I've got two different hands here that I'm deciding on for my racing chronograph. They're both beautiful, but I haven't decided if I want the hour and minute to have a dash of red in it on the black dial with a silver second hand for the chronograph, or if I want to be black with a red. Oy. I haven't decided. It's going to be one or the other. So I've got a couple of different hands there. And I'm also deciding which hand specifically that I want on my Aviator chronograph. You know, there's so many wristwatches made over the last 100 years, but especially the last 50 or 60, that, you know, there's only so many designs of like hands and dials to an extent without getting crazy. And there's realms where they look like something. And there's always a brand that is the one that like is most known for a particular one. So what happens are the people that aren't super into watches or watch history, they're like, oh, something looks like something, or something looks like something. Well, okay, yes, but there are many that did that, but they don't know it. So sometimes I'll choose a hand, or I'll custom paint or modify a hand simply so that it has its own personality that works and doesn't overtly look like somebody else's. But sometimes you have a hand that is so classic that you know, maybe there's one particular brand that used it the most, even though others used it. But I like to blend it in a way that everyone is a unique piece. So that's kind of that. I'm really not into replica watches. I don't really see the value in that. Just as a personal note, I'm sure as heck not going to make replica watches. You know, it's kind of like replica cars. I actually have one replica car and I'm building another. I have a replica Jaguar D-Type from 1957 is what it's replicating. Old Jaguar running gear. It was built in the 90s. Because, and I'll be straight with you, I can't afford a Jaguar D-Type, but I'd like the experience, and I can still race it, so it still has the utility value there. And then I'm building a replica of a 1957 Ferrari 250 Testarossa, the pontoon-fendered one. I've got an actual proper Ferrari Colombo V12 to rebuild, a little larger displacement than the 3-liter 250 V12, which I'm excited about because it'll be faster. So it'll be a cool hot rod. I'm building that to period. But with watches, I really don't want to do that. I built one replica watch for myself just for funsies because the original one is worth way too much for what it is. But I kind of wanted to represent my collection. But I'm on a sidebar here. I just think with cars and watches and anything else, we need to dare to be original, even if it's in a subtle way. So for instance, my GMT is very similar to, I'll give you an example, my Rolex GMT. Now, this is a Casey Putsch video and I'm talking about what I'm doing. This is not an official business video. So Rolex, you guys can all calm down. Here's my GMT. Here's my Rolex. And I love my Rolex. I've had it forever, but when I started making my prototype watches, I thought to myself, you know, gosh, am I going to be able to make a watch that is good enough that I'm going to want to wear it compared to my legacy ones? That was the thought I had early on going on. But what happened was I ended up retiring my Rolex. And the last time I wore it, and it was a great companion for over a decade, I wore it in multiple oceans and car races and a fighter jet. I'm not like doing everything. But I retired it because the one that I built is nicer. It's tougher. It's better. It's a little prettier. It's got a exhibition back and a skeleton so you can see the movement. You can't do that on a Rolex. The Rolex movement's okay looking, not as pretty as mine. You know, and I hate the way the Rolex sets because to set the GMT on my Master 2 from this time period, you have to, Well, the GMT you can click over for the time zone. It's got a position. But if you want to set the date, you have to keep winding over the minute and hour hand forever and ever and ever. So if you have to go one date backwards, if you haven't worn it in a while, you have to move it over like what, 32 times? 30 times all the way forward to wind it around. And I hate that. It's really annoying. And to be honest, the band could be better. And Rolex keeps making things better, albeit they've been accused of making a lot of their stuff in China, which I do not condone at all. So I just kind of retired it. Like, I'll give it to, I'll just pass it on down the generation. Or if there's something brilliant to sell it or trade it for one day, maybe I'll do that. But I'd rather pass it on as a generational thing. So I wear my own watches. Yeah. It's exciting to be able to do that, to make something better than the thing that you loved and liked. Or at least to me. I'm not saying that it is, so Rolex, just leave me alone. Your company's great, your watches are stellar. I obviously wore that more than any watch I've ever had, but for me as an individual, flawed person that knows nothing of watchmaking, I like my watch better. But of course, I'm probably biased and I know nothing about watches. And of course, Rolex and Rolex manufacturing and everything relating to Rolex in the world is smarter and better than all of us. And they make the best things in the world and they fully fund every amazing high-end sport. And we should all worship and buy every single Rolex that ever exists and get on the waiting list for them and pay them whatever they want for them because they are truly the best watches in the world. And I mean that. And that is in no way sarcasm. So there you go. There's your free Rolex advertisement. But because I'm a flawed individual and making my own, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just made my own watches. I'm completely biased by it. And that's why I wear my own. And I think everybody watching this right now should know that what I'm saying is you should just go out and buy a legacy brand like a Rolex or something else like that. And not any of my watches, because I clearly have no idea what I'm doing. And I absolutely mean that. So please make sure that no one buys anything from me ever. Okay, great. I think I did that. But for some reason, all the founders that got their watches seem to be very happy. And I've even seen a picture of one of my watches on the summit of Mount Fuji watching a sunrise. So that's pretty cool. Okay, well, looks like I got more work to do. This video won't get any views, but it feels nice to be an actual human being with an actual heart and building something that I think other people will like. Even if Rolex is much, much better and everybody should just buy that. I don't know what I'm talking about. And thank you, Rolex, for allowing me to exist on the same earth as you. I don't know, that's it, guys. I hope we survive this age of AI and politics, because it does seem that the world is getting overdue for revolutions. And I mean the old school kind. I'm middle-aged. I'm 44. I don't want civilization to go to hell, and I don't want everybody to be stymied by a bunch of sick, twisted billionaires with AI and data computing. Because we're all capable of so much more than what we're doing. And if they all get their way, we're never going to see it. And I think maybe the thing that scares me the most is that with what we're all staring down the barrel of, there's scenarios where actual revolution or warfare is preferred to what they're trying to implement. Well, let's do the best we can now and live. Let's think ahead. Let's think down the generations. The watches matter to me because they're a companion, but they remind me of all the important people that came before and what they did in their lives meant and what that meant. So whether you're getting something like the Phantom that relates to a pilot that had amazing stories around the world and a lifetime of observing, to the Confidant, the ladies' watch, and the incredible things that make a woman and her soul and her strength incredible. And everybody in between. Okay, guys. Well, if you want something, you know how to find me. But this is what I do. aside from pissing off billionaires and federal level politicians on the internet by flying helicopters over data centers. I've turned into an 80s TV show protagonist. Okay, well, MacGyver, Magnum PI, Maverick out.